Howdy cats and kittens, Dr. Big Ed, your guitar pedal shrink. I want to talk briefly this time out, and this is going to be the beginning of a series of talking about some devices that I've had some contact with in the last 6 to 9 months that I haven't really talked about yet, but I think could be useful to you. And this particular one was suggested by an Instagram follower of mine, Effectron, right on, brother. He's pretty hip and knows where it's at, and saw that I had posted a picture of the Headrush Looperboard and asked me about it and said, hey, why don't you do an episode on the Headrush Looperboard? And I was like, I'd love to, but I had already returned it. But he said, hey, but give us your thoughts. So thank you, Effectron. I will give you my thoughts. I'm going to put up a picture that I took of the Looperboard so you can refer to it for some of the things I'm talking about, because I think it was really cool. This is actually the second time I've owned the Headrush Looperboard. Yep. I bought it when it came out a year ago. Musician's friend had a 15% off. And since it's a $900 device, I got the 15% off, $750, paid for it. And I played with it for a couple of weeks. I enjoyed it. There was some pluses and minuses, but I knew that they had to work out some stuff with the firmware. But recently, I returned that one, but recently I found out through some secret handshake, I guess, because even Guitar Center didn't know about it, that Guitar Center was having a special in-store walk-in price of $400. You heard that right, on the Headrush Looperboard. So I was like, you know what, for $400, maybe they've worked out some of the things that were bugging me. Let's check it out. So, what do I like about it? What I like about it is it's built like a brick. It's solid metal. It's going to be pretty sturdy, I think. I like the touch screen, because it's one of the touch screens I've tried that actually works like that. Really, really easy, and you can navigate between the menus really quickly. Really cool. I like the sound quality of the loops. I must say that it's very, very hi-fi. It's got a lot of headroom, much better than 90% of the loopers I try, because most of the loopers I've heard are crap, really. You start to notice it when you're layering. Now, I don't do a lot of phrase looping. I'm going to put that out there up front. I do like little soundscaping and little parts that I will use quickly and then get rid of, and then add another piece, little like snapshots that I use. I do not use many layers. I do not do band in a box thing. That's not my jam. I do free improvisation, so it's nice to have a looper every once in a while that you could do layers, but just to have a high fidelity way to add little bits and pieces rather than constructing an entire thing. I would rather have a super, super long high fidelity delay where I can do sort of, I guess most people would call frippertronics, but I would rather layer things that way. Yes, it's riskier. That's the part I love about it, because you can't undo it once it's in there, but that's what I prefer. It also keeps you from doing too much phrasey stuff for me. Okay, what didn't I like about the Headrush Looperboard? Well, as you can see from the picture, it's massive. Okay, so that's one of the things I didn't like about it. It's hard to get all this stuff in a smaller unit. It would be impossible, but it's massive, okay? It's massive, it's heavy, it's not too heavy, but it's heavy. It's bigger than any pedal board I would ever carry around with me. Why is that important? Well, one of the other things I didn't really care for were the effects. I thought the effects, just being frank here, I'm not slamming the Headrush people. I know they make good products. I just thought that the effects were horrible. Part of the problem is if you went to a preset, let's say clean rhythm, you couldn't change the amp sound. You could only change the amount. If you went to the reverb sound in that preset, you couldn't change the reverb. You could only change the amounts. And the same with the delay and the other effects. You were stuck with those effects. And those effects did not please me. And no matter what preset I tried, I wasn't digging it. So that was another downside. The biggest downside though, however, because maybe you're not buying a looper board for effects. The biggest downside to me, where as you see from the photo, you've got like one layer of switches here and another layer of switches here. Well, I've got size 14 feet. And this layer is stop, copy, I don't know, a couple other parameters, I think. And then your record, overdub, etc. is down here. And then to the left, you have other parameters that are really the brains of the board. I, several times, went to hit the second layer and hit the first layer. And it wasn't just once or twice. That was a problem. Now, you can't get that much control in a smaller unit, right? If you shrink it, then those switches are going to be even closer. So I get it, but they were a problem. Maybe it was more for me personally what actions on those switches were on those were on those levels. For me, didn't work at all. Another thing that bugged the living hell out of me, and I'm sure it was me and I was doing something wrong, but no matter how many times I changed things in the global menu, I couldn't get 4 tracks playing back at once where I could hear them. Or say if I had done 3 tracks, I wanted overdub on the 4th and hear the other 3. The most I could get was 2 tracks playing at the same time, and therefore I couldn't hear 3 and 4. I'm sure that's me, but I tried several times to do it. So let's say that my other problem with it is ease of use. Now, it had a lot of really cool stuff in it. So one of the menus you go to, you can choose reverse or half speed and all these other things. Right, but they're in real time unless you're going to control them with MIDI from thus another device, right? Because then you'd need something else to control that to be able to choose it and switch it for each individual track, because you don't want every track reversing or every track at half speed. You dig? So if there's a way to do that, I'm sure the Headrush people have thought of it, but then that requires another device. And like I said, because I don't dig the effects, I still have to have my pedal board. So that makes me having a looper board that's bigger than my pedal board, and then possible another switcher and expression pedals, because it does take expression. It's got a lot of I/O on the back, cool. So my rig is becoming massive just to do some looping. Now, where does this work for some people? Well, if you're one of those people who does phrase looping, and like looping, phrase looping is a big part of your sound, layering tracks, the whole bit, one person band, if you will. But it doesn't even have to be you trying to have percussion and bass and everything all in there. It could just be guitar based, one person band. Then this might be the thing for you. I still think you're going to need your own separate pedal board if you have your sounds. But that's where I see this device fitting in the marketplace. It is the ultimate one-person band phrase looping box. For sure, if that's how you survive, if that's how you go out and play, if that's how you present yourself as an artist, then this thing probably would kick butt, especially if you could get all 4 tracks going for you at once and be able to control, one track in reverse, another track in half speed, another track in regular speed, and a bunch of other parameters which they've thoughtfully included. the new firmware, which I downloaded the new firmware right away before I did anything else. The new firmware seems much more stable than it was a year ago. So these are the considerations if you're going to be somebody who's interested in the Headrush Looperboard. That's my feedback. Giving it to you straight and honest. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I think it's not for me. It's not conducive or very intuitive for the way I make music. But again, if you live mostly off loops, band in a box, one-person band, tons of phrase loopings, you like layering things, and you like having a lot of control and everything, cool, then this might work for you. It's extreme, like I said, it's extremely well made. It's built like a tank, but it is a tank. It's a tank. I don't see how they could make it smaller, so that's why I'm not slamming them for that. It is what it is. But I would think if you're, you're going to do a lot of dancing, a lot of foot dancing with this thing, with the way the switches are laid out. I don't know how you get around that. Maybe there's a MIDI way with a separate switcher, possibly, but it didn't really work for me. So thanks Effectron for asking me to talk about it. I wish I still had it here so I could show you firsthand, but there's plenty of demos out there on the web. I also, thanks to Effectron, I've decided to make a series of these because I haven't done really demos in a long, long time when my buddy Gary and I would sit here and do demos for companies. But what I am going to do is start featuring some products that I think you probably haven't heard of because they don't have big budgets, they don't spend a lot of money, they don't pay for demos, but they make super, super cool stuff. One of which I just got, is the Hampstead Zenith. It's a EQ compressor preamp pedal. That's awesome. The Hampstead people are awesome. I've met them, and I actually somehow had a little bit to do with this. I'll explain that when I do the video, but it's better than I could have even anticipated. So we're gonna do this. I wanna do the Drolo Effects Twin Peaks Tremolo, because I think it's the best tremolo on the market. I hear everybody talking about tremolo when the Drolo Twin Peaks is like, and the Drolo Giant Hogweed Fuzz Octave Overdrive distortion pedal is also another thing you don't hear enough about, but it's clearly the best octave distortion fuzz out there by far. Low, high octave, tracks great. I've had a lot of time lately with the Montreal Assembly Purple. I played a ton of PLL clones. I've even played an original PLL, and the Purple kicks ass. So I'm just going to do a series of these where I'm going to introduce you to some products. And last but not least, Sonus products. If you haven't experienced Sonus products, these people are geniuses. Their two main products, the Wahoo Wah filter and the volume pedal, which is way, way more than a volume pedal, are the coolest damn things I've ever seen, and I will be featuring those in the future because you need to know. All right? So from the couch in my shrink office, I will see you next time.